The year was 2247, and humanity's first step beyond Earth's solar system had been a fragile one. Proxima Centauri, a rocky planet orbiting the closest star to Earth, had become humanity's first interstellar colony. It wasn't much, just a cluster of domed habitats housing scientists, engineers, and families brave enough to leave their home world. But it was proof that humans could survive among the stars. On this quiet morning, however, the calm shattered. Deep in space, sensors at the colony's orbital station picked up something strange. A massive energy spike moving toward the system at incredible speed. At first, the scientists thought it might be an asteroid or some natural phenomenon. But as the object drew closer, its true nature became clear. It was a fleet. Hundreds of sleek, jagged ships emerged from what looked like a tear in space itself. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, part machine, part living organism, with glowing veins of light pulsing across their surfaces. The ships moved with eerie precision, forming a perfect formation around a central vessel twice the size of any human ship. "Captain," said Lieutenant Kara Sato, her voice tense as she relayed the information to Captain Ilara Voss aboard the Erebus, humanity's lone warship stationed near the colony. "You need to see this." Ilara stood on the bridge of the Erebus, staring at the screen showing the incoming Armada. Her heart sank. She'd heard rumors about alien civilizations, but no one expected them to show up so soon or so aggressively. Then came the message. A deep, resonant voice filled the communication channels, speaking in flawless English. "Humans of Proxima Centauri, we are the Zorathians. Your presence here is unauthorized. Surrender your colony and prepare for assimilation or face annihilation." The crew of the Erebus froze. Assimilation? Annihilation? What did that even mean? Before anyone could respond, the transmission ended, leaving only silence. "We're being scanned," reported Ensign Marcus Hale, his fingers flying over the console. "They're mapping our defenses." Ilara clenched her fists. The Erebus was humanity's most advanced warship, equipped with experimental technology years ahead of its time. But it was just one ship against hundreds. Even worse, Earth's unified fleet was months away from reaching Proxima Centauri. By then, it would be too late. "What do we do, Captain?" asked Dr. Ian Calder, the eccentric scientist who had designed the Erebus. His wild gray hair stuck out in every direction, and his glasses were perpetually crooked. Despite his unkempt appearance, his mind was sharper than anyone else's. "For now, we hold our ground," Ilara replied firmly. "We can't let them think we're weak." As the Erebus moved into position between the colony and the alien fleet, the Zorathians reacted. Their laughter echoed through the communication channel, a cold, mocking sound that sent shivers down everyone's spines. "Look at this tiny thing," one alien voice sneered. "Is this really all they have to defend themselves? How pathetic." Ilara ignored the taunts, focusing instead on preparing her crew. But deep down, doubt crept in. Could the Erebus truly stand against such overwhelming odds, or were they simply delaying the inevitable? For now, there was only one answer: fight. And so, the stage was set. Humanity's fate rested on the shoulders of a single ship, and the courage of those aboard it. The laughter of the Zorathians echoed through the Erebus, a sound that grated on every nerve. It wasn't just mockery, it was contempt, as if humanity's greatest effort to protect itself was nothing more than a child's clumsy attempt at building a sandcastle before an incoming tide. The alien voices crackled over the communication channels, their tone dripping with amusement. "This little toy, this is your defense." One voice sneered. "How adorable. We'll crush it without breaking a sweat." Captain Ilara Voss stood rigid on the bridge, her jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. She wanted to snap back, to tell them that humanity wasn't so easily intimidated, but she knew better. Provoking the aliens further would only make things worse. Instead, she focused on keeping her crew calm. "Stay sharp," she said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "They're trying to rattle us. Don't let them. But the damage had already been done. The laughter had seeped into the minds of her crew, planting seeds of doubt. Ensign Marcus Hale stared at his console, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted the ship's shields. Lieutenant Kara Seto bit her lip, her usual confidence faltering under the weight of the enemy's scorn. Even Dr. Ian Calder, whom normally radiated eccentric energy, seemed unusually quiet. And then there were the messages from Earth. The Unified Fleet Command had received word of the Zorethian arrival, and they weren't exactly inspiring confidence in the Erebus. Is this really the best we've got out there? One officer asked during a secure transmission. That prototype hasn't even been fully tested. What happens if it fails? Ilara listened to the exchange with growing frustration. She understood their concerns. The Erebus was experimental, after all, but hearing her own people question her ship stung. Worse still, some of her crew overheard snippets of the conversation, fueling their fears. "We're not ready for this," muttered Chief Engineer Raj Patel as he worked on the engine diagnostics. "One ship against hundreds. This isn't bravery, it's suicide." Ilara spun around, her eyes blazing. "Then why are you still here?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "If you think we can't win, go ahead and leave. But if you stay, you fight. That's what we do. That's who we are." Her words silenced the room, but the unease lingered. Later, in the privacy of her quarters, Ilara found herself staring at a photo of her younger brother Daniel. He died years ago during a pirate raid near Jupiter, a tragedy that had driven her to join the military. Back then, she'd sworn to protect others from losing loved ones the way she had. Now, staring at the face of an enemy that laughed at her very existence, she wondered if she could keep that promise. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Dr. Ian Calder, holding a datapad filled with schematics. His disheveled appearance made him look more like a mad inventor than a scientist, but his expression was serious. "Captain," he began, "I know morale is low. But trust me when I say the Erebus has something they don't expect. Something extraordinary." "What are you talking about?" Ilara asked, leaning forward. Calder hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if afraid someone might overhear. "Let's just say this ship carries a weapon unlike anything humanity, or the Zorethians, has ever seen. But using it comes with risks. Big ones." Ilara frowned. "Why didn't you mention this sooner?" "Because revealing it now could panic the crew," Calder admitted. "Besides, I didn't want to give false hope until absolutely necessary." Hope. The word hung in the air between them. Hope was in short supply aboard the Erebus. But maybe, just maybe, Calder's secret weapon could change that. For now, though, the crew had to hold on. The Zorethians continued to mock them, sending holographic projections of their ships dwarfing the Erebus. Each image was another reminder of how outnumbered and outgunned they were. Yet amidst the fear and doubt, a spark of defiance remained. Humanity had always faced impossible odds, and somehow they'd always found a way to survive. Ilara returned to the bridge, her resolve hardened. Whatever happened next, the Erebus wouldn't go down without a fight. The Erebus drifted closer to the alien Armada, its sleek hull glinting faintly under the dim light of Proxima Centauri. Captain Ilara Voss had decided on one final attempt at diplomacy before engaging in combat. She hoped that even the Zorethians, with their cold laughter and arrogance, might listen to reason. "Open a channel," she ordered, her voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Kara Sato nodded and activated the communication system. "Channel open, Captain." Ilara stepped forward, addressing the aliens directly. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the human warship Erebus. Your presence here threatens our colony. We mean you no harm, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Let's resolve this peacefully." For a moment, there was silence. Then came the response, a deep, guttural laugh that sent chills through the crew. "Peaceful," one of the Zorethian voices sneered. "You think words can stop us? You're nothing but insects crawling on a rock we've claimed. Surrender now, or we'll crush you like bugs." Ilara clenched her fists but kept her composure. "We won't surrender. This colony is ours, and we'll protect it." The alien's tone shifted from mockery to irritation. "Very well. If you insist on being pests, we'll deal with you accordingly." Before anyone could react, the Zorathians launched a squadron of small fighter ships toward the Erebus. These vessels were fast, darting through space like predatory birds. Their weapons glowed ominously as they prepared to fire. "All hands, battle stations," Ilara shouted. The crew sprang into action. Ensign Marcus Hale monitored the shields while Chief Engineer Raj Patel ensured the engines were running at peak efficiency. Dr. Ian Calder hovered near the tactical console, muttering calculations under his breath. "Here they come," Kira warned as the enemy fighters closed in. The first volley of energy blasts struck the Erebus, shaking the ship violently. Alarms blared across the bridge, and several crew members stumbled to keep their balance. "Shields holding at 85%, Marcus reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "Return fire," Ilara commanded. The Erebus unleashed a barrage of plasma cannons, its experimental weapons cutting through space with precision. 2 enemy fighters exploded in bursts of light, but the rest scattered, weaving unpredictably to avoid further hits. "They're too fast," Kira exclaimed, frustration creeping into her voice. But then something remarkable happened. The Erebus suddenly accelerated, spinning around the attacking fighters with uncanny agility. Its quantum thrusters, designed for rapid maneuvers, allowed the ship to outmaneuver the aliens completely. "What just happened?" Marcus asked, wide-eyed. "We're faster than them," Ilara said, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "Use that to our advantage." Under Ilara's command, the Erebus danced through the battlefield, targeting the enemy fighters one by one. Each hit was precise, each movement calculated. Within minutes, half the squadron lay destroyed, their wreckage drifting lifelessly in space. Yet the victory was short-lived. The remaining fighters regrouped and retreated back toward the main Zorathian fleet. From the safety of their formation, the aliens broadcast another message. "Clever little toy," one of them taunted. "But don't think this changes anything. You're still outnumbered, outgunned, and utterly insignificant." Ilara watched the retreating fighters, her heart pounding. The Erebus had proven itself capable, but only against a fraction of the enemy force. The real challenge was yet to come. As the adrenaline faded, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. They'd survived the skirmish, but the cost had been high. Minor damage to the hull, drained energy reserves, and frayed nerves all served as reminders of how close they'd come to disaster. Still, Lieutenant Kira noticed something during the fight. The Zorathian movements, though swift, followed distinct patterns, almost as if guided by an algorithm rather than instinct. She jotted down notes, determined to analyze the data later. For now, the Erebus limped back toward the colony, its crew battered but alive. The aliens' laughter still rang in their ears, but beneath the fear and doubt, a new determination began to take root. They might be outnumbered, but they weren't powerless. And maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to turn the tide. Back aboard the Erebus, the crew worked feverishly to repair the damage from the skirmish. Sparks flew in the engineering bay as Chief Engineer Raj Patel and his team patched up the hull breaches and recalibrated the shield generators. On the bridge, Lieutenant Kira Sato analyzed data from the battle, her sharp eyes scanning for patterns in the Zorathian movements. But despite their efforts, a heavy cloud of uncertainty hung over the ship. Captain Ilara Voss called a meeting in the briefing room. Around the table sat her senior officers. Kara, Raj, Dr. Ian Calder, and Ensign Marcus Hale. Tension filled the air as they discussed their next move. "We can't keep this up," Raj said bluntly. "Every hit we take weakens us further. Sooner or later, they'll overwhelm us." Ilara nodded grimly. "We need something to tip the scales, something unexpected." Dr. Calder cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. He had been unusually quiet since the battle, his mind clearly working on something. Now he leaned forward, placing a datapad on the table. The Erebus carries a weapon unlike anything humanity, or the Zorathians, has ever seen, he began. It's called the Singularity Lance. Kira frowned. Singularity? As in black holes. Exactly, Calder confirmed. The lance creates miniature black holes that can tear through enemy ships and obliterate entire fleets. One shot could decimate a significant portion of their armada. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That sounds apocalyptic. Why didn't we use it during the last fight? Calder hesitated, glancing at Ilara. Because it's not without risks. If misfired, the lance could destabilize nearby stars or planets, including our colony. And once we reveal it, the Zorathians will know what we're capable of. There's no going back after that. Ilara studied the schematics on the datapad, her expression unreadable. Finally, she looked up. What's the likelihood of success if we use it correctly? High, Calder replied. But we'd need perfect timing and positioning. Even then, there's always a chance something could go wrong. The room fell silent as the weight of the decision settled over them. Using the Singularity Lance might save them, but it could also doom them. We don't have much time, Kira interjected. I've been analyzing the Zorathians' tactics. Their movements follow predictable algorithms, almost like they rely heavily on AI systems. If we can exploit those weaknesses while setting up the lance, we might stand a chance. Ilara nodded thoughtfully. Good work, Lieutenant. Keep digging into their patterns. We'll combine your intel with the lance's power. Raj sighed, rubbing his temples. This is insane. We're betting everything on one shot. It's not just a bet, Ilara said firmly. It's our best chance. I won't let fear stop us from protecting the colony or each other. As the meeting ended, Calder pulled Ilara aside. His usual eccentric demeanor was replaced by sober seriousness. Captain, you should know, the lance wasn't designed for prolonged use. Firing it even once could cause irreversible damage to the ship. After that, we'll be vulnerable. Ilara met his gaze. Then we make sure it counts. Later that evening, Ilara stood alone on the observation deck, staring out at the vast expanse of space. The Zorathian fleet loomed in the distance, a dark reminder of the odds stacked against them. Her thoughts drifted to Earth, to the billions of lives depending on humanity's survival here. Failure wasn't an option, not when so much was at stake. She turned away from the viewport, resolve hardening within her. The Erebus might be outnumbered and outgunned, but it carried something the Zorathians couldn't anticipate: human ingenuity and desperation. Tomorrow, they would prepare for the fight of their lives. The next day, the crew of the Erebus was a hive of activity. Lieutenant Kira Sato's analysis of the Zorathian fleet had revealed a critical flaw in their seemingly invincible strategy: their reliance on AI-driven coordination. The aliens' movements followed precise patterns, predictable enough for Kira to anticipate where they would strike next. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give humanity an edge, if they played their cards right. Captain Ilara Voss gathered her senior officers in the command center. A holographic map of the Proxima Centauri system floated above the table, displaying the positions of both the Erebus and the Zorathian Armada. We can't win in a head-on fight, Ilara began, her voice steady. But we don't have to. We'll use guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run strikes to wear them down while avoiding direct confrontation. Dr. Ian Calder adjusted his crooked glasses, looking intrigued. It's risky, but it could work. If we target specific subsystems in their ships, we might disable key vessels without triggering a full-scale retaliation. Ensign Marcus Hale nodded enthusiastically. And every ship we take out weakens their overall strength. They'll never see it coming. Chief Engineer Raj Patel crossed his arms, skeptical as always. Assuming we don't get blown to pieces first. Ilara ignored the comment and turned to Kira. Lieutenant, you'll guide us. Use your data to predict their movements. We'll strike fast and retreat before they can respond." Kira saluted with a small smile. "Understood, Captain." The plan came into action almost immediately. Using its superior speed and agility, the Erebus darted through the outer edges of the Zorathian formation, launching surprise attacks on isolated targets. Each strike was surgical. Plasma cannons disabled engines, EMP bursts disrupted communications, and precision missiles targeted weapon systems. The Zorathians were caught off guard. Their massive fleet struggled to adapt to the unpredictable nature of the Erebus assaults. Instead of engaging directly, the human ship vanished into asteroid fields or behind moons after each attack, leaving the aliens frustrated and confused. "They're like ghosts," one Zorathian commander growled over intercepted comms. "How are they doing this?" "They're insects," another snapped. "Crush them quickly." Despite their growing irritation, the aliens underestimated the Erebus. They dismissed the hit-and-run tactics as cowardly and ineffective, failing to realize the cumulative damage being inflicted on their fleet. Several of their ships drifted powerless in space, their crews stranded until reinforcements arrived. But the victories came at a cost. The constant movement put immense strain on the Erebus systems. Shields flickered dangerously low after each engagement, and Chief Engineer Raj Patel worked tirelessly to keep the ship operational. Fatigue began to show on the faces of the crew, who hadn't slept properly in days. "Captain," Raj warned during one particularly tense moment, "we can't keep this up forever. The engines are overheating, and the hull integrity is slipping." Ilara clenched her jaw. "We push forward. Every second counts." As the days passed, the Zorathians grew angrier and more desperate. They sent larger squadrons to hunt down the elusive Erebus, determined to end the nuisance once and for all. Finally, during one daring raid near the edge of the system, the humans made a mistake. After disabling the heavily armed cruiser, the Erebus lingered too long, trying to extract valuable intelligence from the wreckage. Before they could escape, a swarm of Zorathian fighters descended upon them, trapping the ship in a dense asteroid field. "Shields are down to 20%, Marcus shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Ilara gripped the railing, her mind racing. The odds were stacked against them again, but surrender wasn't an option. "Prepare the Singularity Lance," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. The crew froze. This was it, the moment of truth. "No turning back now," Calder muttered under his breath. Trapped and outnumbered, the Erebus prepared for its final stand. The aliens thought they had won, but they hadn't seen what humanity was truly capable of. The Erebus was surrounded. Trapped in a dense asteroid field, its shields flickered precariously as Zorathian fighters unleashed wave after wave of energy blasts. The ship rocked violently with each hit, sending crew members stumbling across the bridge. Alarms blared, and sparks erupted from overloaded consoles. "Shields at 10%, Ensign Marcus Hale shouted, his voice trembling. "We can't take much more of this." Captain Ilara Voss stood firm, her eyes locked on the main viewport. The glowing veins of the alien ships pulsed ominously as they closed in for the kill. She knew there was only one option left. "Activate the Singularity Lance," she ordered, her tone leaving no room for argument. Dr. Ian Calder rushed to the tactical console, his hands moving swiftly over the controls. "Charging the lance now," he said, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. "But we'll need cover fire if we're going to survive the blast." Ilara turned to Lieutenant Kira Sato. "Lieutenant, plot a course through the asteroid field. Use the debris to shield us while we charge the weapon." Kira nodded, her fingers flying across her console. "Aye, Captain. Course plotted. But it's going to be tight. We'll have to weave through some massive rocks." "Then let's make sure we don't hit any," Ilara replied grimly. The Erebus surged forward, its quantum thrusters propelling it into the chaotic maze of asteroids. The ship twisted and turned, narrowly avoiding collisions as chunks of rock exploded around them from enemy fire. The Zorathians pursued relentlessly, their laughter echoing through the comms once again. "You can run, little humans, but you cannot hide." One alien sneered. "Your end is inevitable." Ilara ignored the taunts, focusing instead on keeping her crew alive. "Lance is at 50%, Calder reported, his voice tense. "Keep pushing," Ilara urged. On the bridge, tension crackled like static electricity. Every second felt like an eternity as the Erebus danced between destruction and survival. Chief Engineer Raj Patel worked furiously in the engine room, rerouting power to keep the shields from collapsing entirely. "Shields are failing," Marcus warned. "Direct hits on the hull." "We're almost there," Calder shouted back. 75%. Just hold on." Finally, the Erebus reached a relatively clear pocket within the asteroid field. Kira stabilized the ship just long enough for Calder to complete the final preparations. "Singularity Lance fully charged," he announced, his voice tinged with both triumph and fear. Ilara took a deep breath. "Fire." The Lance roared to life, emitting a deafening hum that reverberated through the ship. A beam of unimaginable energy shot out from the Erebus, striking the center of the asteroid field. Space itself seemed to warp and twist as a miniature black hole began to form. The gravitational pull was immediate and devastating. Zorathian ships caught in the vortex were yanked helplessly toward the swirling abyss. Their screams filled the comms as dozens of vessels disappeared into the void, torn apart by the crushing forces. Even the asteroids were pulled in, creating a maelstrom of destruction that lit up the darkness of space. But the Erebus wasn't unscathed. The immense strain of firing the Lance caused critical systems to fail. Lights flickered, and the ship shuddered violently. "Damage report," Ilara demanded. "Engines are down. Life support failing." Marcus replied, panic creeping into his voice. "We did it, though," Kira said softly, staring at the carnage outside. "We actually did it." Ilara allowed herself a brief moment of relief before turning to her crew. "We're not done yet. We've bought ourselves time, but we're sitting ducks until we get these systems back online. Everyone, to your stations. Let's make sure we live to fight another day." As the crew scrambled to repair the ship, Ilara gazed out at the remnants of the Zorathian fleet. For the first time, there was fear in their movements. The aliens had laughed at humanity. But now, they knew better. The Erebus might be battered and broken, but it had proven one thing beyond doubt. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The Erebus drifted in silence, its crew working frantically to repair the damage from firing the Singularity Lance. The ship's once pristine corridors were now dimly lit, with sparks occasionally erupting from exposed wires. Chief Engineer Raj Patel and his team worked tirelessly in the engine room, their faces streaked with grease and sweat as they attempted to restore power to critical systems. On the bridge, Captain Ilara Voss stared at the carnage outside, a graveyard of Zorathian ships caught in the black hole's wake. But the victory was bittersweet. While the Lance had decimated a significant portion of the alien fleet, the remaining Zorathians were regrouping. Their formations tightened, and their movements became more cautious, but no less menacing. "They're adapting," Lieutenant Kira Seto muttered, analyzing fresh data on her console. "Their AI is recalibrating after what happened." Ilara frowned. "How long until they figure out how to counter us?" "Not long," Kira admitted grimly. "They're already adjusting their algorithms. If we don't act soon, they'll find a way to neutralize our advantage." Dr. Ian Calder leaned forward, his wild hair even messier than usual. "There's one thing we haven't tried yet: hacking their network. If we can disrupt their AI coordination, we could cripple their entire fleet." Ilara raised an eyebrow. "That sounds impossible. How do you hack something we barely understand?" "It's risky," Calder admitted, "but not impossible. We'd need access to their mainframe, which means boarding one of their ships." The room fell silent. Boarding an enemy vessel. It sounded suicidal. "I'll leave the mission," Ilara said firmly, cutting through the tension. "No way," Marcus protested. "Captain, it's too dangerous. You're needed here. And if I don't go, who will?" Ilara countered. "This ship, and this crew, needs leadership that doesn't shy away from risks. Besides, I'm the best shot we've got for pulling this off." After a heated debate, the decision was made. A small team would accompany Ilara aboard a captured Zorathian fighter drifting near the battlefield, a relic from their earlier skirmishes. Armed with portable hacking tools and Calder's improvised virus, they prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. Under the cover of darkness, the boarding party launched from the Erebus, using debris from the asteroid field to mask their approach. The Zorathian fighter floated eerily silent, its biomechanical surface pulsing faintly as if alive. "This thing gives me the creeps," Marcus whispered as they docked and breached the hull. Inside, the ship was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Walls seemed to breathe, organic tendrils writhing underfoot. Strange symbols glowed softly along the corridors, guiding them deeper into the vessel. "Stay alert," Ilara ordered, her pulse rifle raised. "We don't know what or who we're dealing with." The team moved cautiously, encountering automated defenses that sprang to life without warning. Biomechanical drones emerged from the walls, their glowing eyes locking onto the intruders. The crew fought back, their weapons slicing through the alien constructs, but each step forward felt like walking into a nightmare. Finally, they'd reached the central chamber, a massive chamber filled with pulsating nodes connected by streams of light. This was the mainframe. "This is it," Calder said, pulling out a device. "Let's plant the virus and get out of here." As he worked, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared, and the walls began closing in. "They know we're here," Kira shouted. Ilara glanced at the exit. They were running out of time. "Finish up, Doctor," she urged. "We're leaving, with or without you." Calder nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. "Almost done." "Got it." The virus uploaded just as the first wave of Zorathian reinforcements arrived. The team sprinted toward the docking bay, pursued by swarms of drones and bursts of energy fire. At the last moment, Ensign Marcus stayed behind, holding off the enemy to give the others a chance to escape. "Go," he yelled, firing wildly. Ilara hesitated, torn between duty and loyalty. But there was no time to argue. She turned away, tears streaming down her face as explosions lit up the corridor behind them. Back aboard the Erebus, the crew watched as the virus spread through the Zorathian network. Ships faltered, their coordinated movements collapsing into chaos. For the first time, hope flickered in their hearts. But the cost weighed heavily on Ilara. Marcus's sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten, not by her, and not by anyone else. The Erebus shuddered as the Zorathian fleet descended into disarray. The virus planted by Dr. Ian Calder had spread like wildfire, corrupting the aliens' AI systems and plunging their once coordinated armada into chaos. Ships collided with one another, weapons fired erratically, and entire squadrons drifted aimlessly in space. For the first time since the Zorathians' arrival, humanity held the upper hand. But victory came at a price. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge, staring at the viewport as flashes of light illuminated the battlefield. Her heart ached for Ensign Marcus Hale, who would stay behind to ensure the mission's success. His final words echoed in her mind. "Go." She clenched her fists, vowing silently that his sacrifice would not be in vain. "Captain," Lieutenant Kira Sato said softly, breaking the silence. "The virus is working better than we expected. Their formations are collapsing completely." Ilara nodded but didn't turn away from the viewport. "Good work, Lieutenant. But this isn't over yet. We need to press our advantage while they're vulnerable." Kira hesitated before speaking again. "What about Marcus? Shouldn't we retrieve him?" Ilara closed her eyes briefly, pain etched across her face. "We can't risk it. Not now." He knew what he was doing when he stayed behind. We honor his bravery by finishing what he helped start. The crew exchanged somber glances, each member grappling with the weight of Marcus's death. Yet amidst their grief, a renewed determination took root. They had lost a comrade, but they still had a job to do. And Marcus's courage reminded them why they were fighting. Dr. Calder approached Ilara, his usual eccentric energy subdued. "Captain, I've analyzed the data from the alien mainframe. There's something you need to know." "What is it?" she asked, turning to face him. "The Zorathians weren't always like this," Calder explained, adjusting his crooked glasses. "They used to be explorers, scientists, even, but their reliance on AI corrupted them. Over generations, they became slaves to their own technology, losing their individuality and humanity along the way." Ilara frowned. "You're saying they're victims too?" "In a way, yes," Calder replied. "Their civilization has been consumed by the very thing they created. That virus we planted. It doesn't just disable their ships. It disrupts the neural links binding them to their machines. Some of them may wake up, confused, maybe even scared." Ilara processed this information, her thoughts racing. If the Zorathians could regain control of themselves, perhaps there was still hope for peace. But trusting them after everything they'd done felt impossible. "We'll deal with that later," she decided. "Right now, we focus on survival." The Erebus launched another wave of attacks, targeting the largest remaining Zorathian vessels. Without their AI coordination, the aliens struggled to mount a defense. Plasma cannons tore through hulls, and EMP bursts disabled engines, leaving countless ships adrift in space. Yet as the battle raged on, something unexpected happened. A lone Zorathian cruiser broke away from the fleet, broadcasting a message on open channels. "Humans," a voice said, trembling with uncertainty. We don't want to fight anymore. Please stop. Let us live." The bridge fell silent. Was this a trick, or had the virus truly awakened some semblance of free will within the aliens? Ilara glanced at her crew, then at Calder. "Do we trust them?" Calder shrugged. "It's hard to say, but if even a fraction of them are sincere, killing them all might make us no better than they were." Ilara took a deep breath. "Cease fire," she ordered. The crew hesitated but complied, lowering their weapons. The Zorathian cruiser hovered nearby, its glowing vanes dimming as if powered down. For now, the fighting stopped. But the war wasn't over. Humanity had proven its strength, but the road ahead would require more than firepower. It would demand understanding, forgiveness, and perhaps even redemption for both sides. As the crew of the Erebus mourned Marcus's loss, they also celebrated their resilience. Against all odds, they had turned the tide. And though the stars beyond remained uncertain, one truth burned bright. Humanity's spirit could never be extinguished. The ceasefire held, for now. The Zorathian cruiser that had broken away floated silently in the void, its glowing vanes dim and lifeless. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge of the Erebus, her gaze fixed on the alien ship. Her crew worked quietly around her, repairing systems and monitoring the battlefield, but tension still hung thick in the air. Are they really done fighting? Ensign Marcus Hale's empty station loomed behind her like a ghostly reminder of the cost of their victory. She clenched her jaw, refusing to let doubt creep in. Lieutenant Kira Sato broke the silence. "Their ships are still scattered, Captain. Most of them aren't responding to commands, either because of the virus or because their crews are too disoriented." Dr. Ian Calder leaned over a console, studying readings from the rogue cruiser. "This one seems different," he murmured. "Its energy signature is fluctuating, almost as if it's trying to stabilize itself." Ilara turned to him sharply. "What does that mean?" "It could mean they're regrouping, or worse, adapting again," Calder admitted. "We can't assume they'll stay passive forever." Ilara nodded grimly. "Then we hit them with everything we've got while they're weak." "Lieutenant Sato, prepare the Singularity Lance for another firing sequence." Kira hesitated. Captain, using the lance again risks destabilizing the star system. We barely survived the last time. I know the risks, Ilara said firmly. But if we don't finish this now, they'll come back stronger. And next time, we might not have the element of surprise. Calder interjected, his voice urgent. There's another option. Instead of firing the lance directly at their ships, we could modify it to emit an electromagnetic pulse, a massive EMP blast. It wouldn't destroy them outright, but it would disable every ship in range without causing collateral damage. Ilara considered this, weighing the pros and cons. An EMP would neutralize the threat without further bloodshed, but it also meant giving the Zorathians a chance to recover. Could humanity afford mercy after everything they'd endured? Finally, she made her decision. Do it. Modify the lance for an EMP burst. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Raj Patel led a team of technicians in reconfiguring the Singularity lance. The process was delicate. One wrong calculation could render the weapon useless, or worse, trigger catastrophic failure. This thing wasn't designed for this kind of modification, Raj grumbled, wiping sweat from his brow. If we screw up, we're dead. You won't screw up, Ilara said, appearing beside him, because we don't have a choice. Raj sighed but kept working, his hand steady despite the pressure. Hours passed as the crew raced against time. Outside, the Zorathian fleet showed signs of stirring. Ships began moving sluggishly, their systems rebooting. They're coming back online, Kira warned from the bridge. We need to act now. Almost there, Raj replied through gritted teeth. Finally, the modifications were complete. The lance hummed with energy, ready to unleash its modified payload. Target locked, Kira announced. All remaining Zorathian ships are within range. Ilara took a deep breath. Fire. The lance roared to life, emitting a blinding pulse of electromagnetic energy that rippled through space like a shockwave. Every Zorathian ship caught in its radius went dark instantly. Engines offline, weapons disabled, communications cut. The battlefield fell eerily silent. On the bridge, the crew erupted into cheers. They had done it. Against all odds, the Erebus had neutralized the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. But Ilara remained quiet, staring at the drifting alien ships. She knew the war wasn't truly over, not until they understood why the Zorathians had attacked in the first place. Send a message to Earth, she ordered. Tell them we've secured the colony, but warn them that peace will require more than just winning battles. And prepare a boarding party. We're going aboard that rogue cruiser to find answers. As the crew scrambled to follow her orders, Ilara allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had proven its strength and ingenuity, but survival alone wasn't enough. If they wanted a future among the stars, they would need something far greater: hope. The silence in space was profound. The Zorathian fleet, once a terrifying armada, now drifted powerless, their ships adrift like leaves caught in an endless cosmic current. On the bridge of the Erebus, Captain Ilara Voss watched as her crew prepared for what came next. The rogue cruiser that had broadcast its plea for peace remained eerily still, its glowing veins pulsing faintly as if alive but subdued. Boarding party ready, Captain. Lieutenant Kira Sato reported, her voice steady despite the tension radiating through the air. Ilara nodded. Let's go, but stay sharp. This could still be a trap. Accompanied by Kira, Dr. Ian Calder, and a small team of Marines, Ilara boarded the alien vessel. Inside, the environment was surreal. Walls seemed to breathe, organic tendrils twitched underfoot, and strange symbols glowed dimly along the corridors. The eerie atmosphere weighed heavily on the group, but they pressed forward, weapons drawn. They reached the central chamber, where a lone figure awaited them, a Zorathian unlike any they'd encountered before. Its body shimmered with iridescent hues, and its eyes glowed not with hostility, but with something akin to sorrow. You've won, the creature said, its voice soft yet resonant. We surrender. Dr. Calder stepped forward cautiously. You're not controlled by your AI systems anymore. No, the Zorathian replied. Your virus freed us. From our machines, and from ourselves. For generations, we've been slaves to the very technology we created. It consumed us, turned us into conquerors. We forgot who we were. Ilara studied the alien carefully. And now? The creature hesitated, lowering its head. Now we seek redemption. Our actions have brought suffering to countless worlds, including yours. If you'll allow it, we wish to begin anew. The room fell silent as the humans absorbed these words. Redemption. From the species that had laughed at humanity's feeble defenses just days ago, it felt almost too much to comprehend. Calder broke the silence. If they're sincere, this could change everything. Imagine what we could learn from each other, what we could build together. Kira frowned. Or it could be a trick. How do we know they won't attack again once they recover? Ilara considered both perspectives. Humanity had every reason to distrust the Zorathians, but she also knew that fear and hatred would only perpetuate cycles of violence. This moment demanded courage, not just to fight, but to forgive. We'll give you a chance, she said finally, addressing the alien. But understand this, if you betray us, there will be no second chances. Do we have an agreement? The Zorathian bowed deeply, its movements slow and deliberate. You have our word. We will honor this truce. Back aboard the Erebus, the crew processed the encounter with mixed emotions. Some were hopeful, others skeptical, but all agreed on one thing. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing against overwhelming odds. News of the victory spread quickly back to Earth, igniting celebrations across the planet. The colony on Proxima Centauri V was safe, for now, and humanity's first step into interstellar diplomacy had begun. As the Erebus limped toward home, its battered hull bearing the scars of battle, Ilara stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. She thought of Marcus Hale, whose sacrifice had made this possible, and whispered a quiet promise. His death would not be forgotten. In the distance, the faintest signal crackled through the void. A message from another faction within the Zorathians, pleading for peace. Humanity's journey among the stars was far from over, but for the first time, hope burned brighter than fear. And so, amidst the wreckage of war and the fragile beginnings of understanding, a new dawn emerged, one where cooperation might replace conflict and unity could transcend division. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe anymore, and perhaps, just perhaps, that wasn't such a bad thing.